Anyway, so yeah, the Space Horse, mostly what it's trying to get the Guardians to do is it's trying to get the Guardians to participate in these games. Anyway,
Can I
Oh my god. You've been talking about this for a week straight.
I do it for a month.
I can keep this going all day.
You know, I want somebody who looks at me in the same way that Rami looks at Destiny.
Welcome to a new episode of the Habibis, 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea. My name is Rami Ismail, your host for this episode.
And I'm Osama Dorius.
And I'm Fawzi Mesmar.
And beyond the Space Horse, how are you two doing?
I'm good. I'm super happy to be talking to y'all. I've missed you very much.
Man, I'm officially off. I am on holidays.
Me too.
Nice.
Oh, I'm so tired.
I'm self-employed. Womp womp.
Oh.
Keep rubbing it in, Rami.
It just
I have 2 weeks off.
I have no weeks off.
You can give yourself weeks off.
You
I
do
can
that
give
to
myself
yourself.
weeks off. I just won't earn money during those weeks, which is not great.
It's all good.
I
Yeah.
believe like if there's nothing to do with money in this. Rami just can't sit idle. So like the concept of a holiday is just foreign for him.
No,
Hey Rami, can you
don't
sit
call
here
me out
for an
like that.
hour? I'm like, an hour
No,
doing nothing?
absolutely
No. Let me do
Rami.
a million things.
Yes.
Tell me what you did on your year off sabbatical.
No.
Yeah, wasn't this the
That's
year off?
embarrassing.
Entire episode, just
This-
listing it off.
This
Wait,
was the year off.
This was the year off?
This was the year off. I started a
Man.
podcast and a newsletter and 2 projects and a third
Consultation
project
business.
and a consultation business that got out of hand. And, you know.
People learn yoga or something. Like during a year off.
Oh, yeah. I started learning how to fly. I picked up piano practice again. What else did I do? I don't know. I did some
Hopefully
stuff.
Rami's busier on his year off.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Rami needs a job so that it tells him what time he should just stop working.
Okay, I will say, just to make this serious for a moment, I did actually implement weekends for this year, which is
No.
nice. So,
Oh wait,
I mostly,
the weekends in which you record podcast or you fly to conferences? Yeah.
so okay, fair. I do the podcast, but that's the only work I do, and I refuse to edit it on the weekend. So I just talk to 2 friends on the weekend, and it just happens to be recorded.
Yes.
That part of the podcast is the fun part. The work part.
So-
Yes.
Push it to live.
So I mostly did weekends this year, although indeed on Sundays since like the start of this year, I've been recording this, which actually, good segue, the Habibis is almost 1 year old.
Man, my life is flying right in front of my
It
eyes.
I've gone so much grayer during this year, but at the same time,
Man,
you
I
don't have that
remember
problem.
I remember it like if it was yesterday. And no, I don't have that problem at all.
Yeah.
Not by choice, mind you.
Yeah. No, the first episode of the Habibis, I think, was January 15th of 2021. And I don't know if you, obviously, I think I would guess you 2 remember, but that wasn't actually the first episode we recorded, if you
No.
remember that.
Oh no,
We started recording in December, mid-December.
Yeah, we did some secret practice episodes before we started with the first episode of the Habibis because we weren't sure we were any good at podcasting.
And we weren't, to be fair.
We were pretty bad.
Those were the ones.
Before we figured it out.
Those are the ones in which we figured out like how an episode of the Habibi is gonna look like in terms of like
Right.
all right, we're gonna talk about this topic, then it's food. All right, then we'll come back. All right, let's talk about this topic, and there's food again. We're like, okay, well, don't fight it. Don't fight it. Just talk about food from the beginning.
Yeah. Speaking of food, there's this Egyptian restaurant in Hilversum. There's not a lot of Egyptian restaurants in the Netherlands at all. This is his name is Abu Amr. Well, the restaurant's name is Abu Amr. His name is Amr. and he has a restaurant here in Hilversum, and it's a vegan Egyptian place.
Whoa,
Um,
that's rare, no?
yeah, I mean, most of his meals are vegan, and then a few of them are vegetarian, but most of it is built like dairy free and everything. And
A lot of Arab
it's
food
really
is vegan, really. Like, hummus, food, falafel, all of the stuff is
a,
vegan.
a lot of it is already vegan, so it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Koshari is vegan,
Koshari is
like there's
vegan.
Yeah.
so he has an amazing offering, and I was visiting him the other day, and he gave me an off-menu plate of just Egyptian fasulia
Ooh,
with rose, and it was like
nice.
perfectly made. And I'm like, you need to put this on the menu. And now he's messaging me with like, if you have any other ideas for recipes, I need some inspiration. So if anybody has good ideas for what I can ask the vegan Egyptian to try and make in Hilversum, like I was just sitting here and I'm like, all the recipes I like are not vegan, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Just add
like
them to
I
our
was,
Discord, man, and he'll be flooded with ideas in no time.
I'll ask him to join. Maybe he can come hang out for an episode.
Oh,
Oh, that'd be
great.
fun.
I'd love that. Yeah.
He's a funny man. But yeah, that was good. Yeah, food. Yeah, that was a lot of our episodes. Our first episode was about the niche, right? About the teacups.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, I remember that one. That was fun.
That was great.
The teacups in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
what the episodes that didn't air were about. I can't. It's like,
Oh my God, it's been a year already.
yeah.
It's been a year.
How
Yeah.
did this happen?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But just for everyone that's listening and that either hasn't been part of us from the start, hadn't been part of the show from the start, or for those of you that have been, we will try and record a special 1-year anniversary episode. We're still trying to
Inshallah.
figure out some of the logistics, so it's very much inshallah. But what we do absolutely want to do is we want to hear what you thought the best Habibis memories of this last year were. Your favorite episodes, your favorite moments, your favorite segments, just whatever you have. And we're going to give Osama an extra long meal segment on that episode.
So happy right now.
Yeah, send us-
right.
Yeah, send us your favorite Habibis moments at info@habibis.com so that Osama can read it to us.
Yes. And I'm very excited for that. It really did go so fast. But let's not speak too much about that because we have a 1-year episode to make. Before that, a bunch of other cool stuff is happening. We're going to be talking about our favorite games of the year, one of these episodes.
Yep.
Which
Inshallah.
is cool. Like, inshallah. It's just fun. It's the first time we're doing New Year's as the Habibis, inshallah. So we're figuring all this stuff out,
When you
inshallah.
say inshallah so many times, it sounds like we're not going to do it. We're just pretending.
Right.
That's a nervous inshallah.
But there's always an
No.
offshoot. You never know. So that's why you add the fine print, inshallah, to every statement.
Just, and I feel like legal text in the Arab world should be so much easier. It's just you have the contract, and at the bottom you just put like inshallah, and it's like
It's just the same footnote, inshallah, and then you just put the asterisks everywhere on the text.
everywhere. Every full sentence says inshallah at the end. But what happened this week for all of you? What was this week? Because I had a bunch of stuff happen, but I feel like y'all should go first.
Osama, hit us up.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it up. There is one thing that happened, but it's big, but I can't talk about it yet. So that one will have to wait. So you're just going to get a little bit of an allusion to it for now, and then
What a tease.
This is like this is the hardest. It's not even like here's what it is. It's like this is like when a video game studio does an announcement that they're gonna do an announcement.
This is exactly that. An announcement.
But it's
is an
like-
announcement.
It's like a trailer where it's just a fully black trailer, and then for like 1 second of it, there's like a little bit of light on a cube. And it's like, tune in next episode.
Another one of your hidden skills that you can
Right.
come up with advertisements on the fly. That's great.
Just here we go. Osama's secret thing.
Yes.
Inshallah, in a future episode of the Habibis.
It's another one of those, like, there's going to be a conspiracy theory that ties us to Kojima somehow. And Osama, it's your
Oh
fault.
God.
Yeah.
The other thing I did this week, which was fun, and maybe one of you or both of you have done it as well, is I saw a movie in the theater for the third time since the pandemic started. I saw the new Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I
Ooh.
went to that too.
Yeah.
I haven't
So
been,
we did.
so I am on behalf of the audience. I am the protector of spoilers.
Okay,
Fair,
fair,
fair.
fair, fair.
To be honest, I think we should have protected spoilers either way because it's a little too soon and not a lot of people are able to see it yet. So
Yeah,
Very soon.
yeah,
but we can still talk about it a little bit spoiler free, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I would love to hear what you guys thought.
Yeah.
Osama, did you
So,
like it?
Okay, I absolutely loved it. The
Oh,
movie
nice.
was made for me, and everyone else just gets to enjoy it. That's how I saw the movie. I'm like,
Was it full of dad jokes?
yeah, there were a bunch of jokes. Most of them landed. So yeah,
The credits started with "For Osama Dorias."
some people called it fan service. To me, the whole movie was Osama service. Everyone just gets to enjoy it at the same time.
The movie came out and hugged you.
That's the thing. So if we're talking spoiler free, I'm not going to talk about specifics. So what I'll say is that there are surprises, really good ones, really big ones that got the whole theater buzz and very very energetic. That's one. The second is I loved the overarching theme of the movie. It was about redemption. The whole movie, every aspect of it was about people making mistakes and righting their wrongs. And that resonates with me so much. I absolutely love that message. So even as people will use the word fan service a lot because the movie had a lot of that, and I'm not saying it in a negative tone, but it had a lot of that. It's like a love letter to Spider-Man, period. Um, but the theme was so strong, and Marvel doesn't always do themes right. I'm a big MCU fan, so I'm not saying it out of hate or anything like that. But generally, a lot of the movies lack a theme. You're like, okay, that was a fun ride, but what was it about? And it's hard to like figure out what it was about. It was just there because it's an MCU, it's a big movie, and it bridges this one and that one, and nobody learned anything or nobody went through anything. A handful of MCU movies I felt flat on the meaning department. Not this one. I don't know if you felt the same way, Rami.
Yeah, I mean, I think very much so. The movie definitely wasn't made for me because it was made for you, but it's still it is probably in my top 3 favorite MCU movies.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's very strongly executed. It meanders between being a fun action movie and a pretty serious like character piece.
Mhm.
I feel.
Mhm.
And it really explores some of the. I feel this is a thing that Marvel has been doing with Phase 4 anyway. It's like every character gets to face the darkness
Mhm.
in them and the sort of like faults of their character, and they don't get away with it easily necessarily, right?
Mhm.
So, and I think they've said this in marketing, but they really do put Peter through the ringer in this one, and then it's not an easy time for him. And I think that's it. It was really cool. It also allows the MCU to talk more sincerely about things, right?
Mhm.
Which before I think was pretty much limited. Like we had a little bit of it in the Winter Soldier, and then we had a lot of it in Infinity War. But beyond that, it's never really been about characters reckoning with real issues, and I think this one did a good job of doing that. So, I can imagine it's hard. Like you have all these super powered people with these incredible abilities. How do you tell a story that this still connects on a human level?
Mhm.
And I think that's a little bit of what fell flat with the Eternals, and it's a little bit of what fell flat with some of the other things. But the MCU absolutely has the ability to sort of like bring it back down to things that would resonate with normal people.
To humanize them, exactly.
Right.
Because we need
Yeah.
that. We need that connection. If we don't feel that connection between them, then we're not going to care about them. And if we don't care about what happens to the protagonists in the
Right.
movie, then what's
You
the
know,
point of having it?
you know what this movie kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of Yakuza 0.
Okay.
Because that's another movie where, something goes wrong and then in trying to fix it, everything keeps getting worse.
Mm.
And I think this did a really good job at sort of like explaining that there's not always an easy way out, right? And I think that's as much as I'll say, because this is as much as what had been said in the pre-movie interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think they did an incredible job. It was also just pretty. It was a pretty movie.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm comfortable recommending that people go watch it now, because
Hmm.
by the time this episode airs, some time had passed. To be perfectly honest, I regret watching it on opening night. I should have waited a little bit, because not because of the movie itself. The movie was fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed it. The situation, the theater situation that I would live through, was one that I would have avoided had I known it was going to be that way.
Mm.
The
Okay.
compared to the other two times I went to the theater, where there was a lot of space between us, social distancing, people were serious. Here, this movie brought out everyone, and by everyone I mean also people who don't care, and who are not
Mm,
careful. And I
right.
saw a lot of people like forgetting to put their mask on and had to be reminded for
Ooh.
extended periods of time, or just having it under their nose. You know, the things that we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, when people didn't realize how serious it
Right.
was. The people were sitting next to us. There was no social distancing in the theater, and I'm like, what the
Wow.
hell is it? Yeah, it was.
Oh, in the Netherlands, it was every seat that was taken had to have two seats around the group that was
And
sitting.
that's how it was for the last two movies I watched, for June
Right.
and for Shang-Chi. And for this one, I was expecting the same. I had no reason to believe otherwise, but they packed the theater.
Wow.
We have
They
bigger, like, I watched it on Friday, and we have bigger measures coming on Monday. So I think they, like, because
Spider-Man messed it up.
yeah, no, yeah. I think they were like, okay, the bigger methods will come later, so we're going to be lax now because nobody's watching us, because we have to
Wow.
reinforce them later. And I'm
Uh,
very disappointed in that whole thing. So
yeah, me too. I mean, in the Netherlands, I got lucky that I went immediately because the cinemas are closed now. We went into lockdown, and we're going to be in lockdown until January 14th. So all restaurants and shops and cultural institutes have closed. So
Wow.
wow.
uh, nobody else in the Netherlands is going to be seeing Spider-Man, because that until January 14th there is no cinema.
Yeah, it's kind of like why I, delayed going to, like, there's a bunch of movies I want to see coming out this holiday season. Like, there's The Matrix
Mm,
also coming out and all of that
yep.
stuff. But it also feels like a weird time to go to the cinema right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my experiences with the cinema have been really good because, again, like social distancing was implemented, masks are required, like the two empty seats around you. I thought it was really well done, and I felt generally at ease in this more than in the supermarket,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I guess I can go to the movies, and they kept that up for this. But the Omicron variant is it's so rampant that the Netherlands decided to lock down. I think it's the right choice, although obviously I'm very sad about it, and I can imagine a lot of people are very sad about it. And
Mhm.
seeing entrepreneurs and restaurant people react to it is just genuinely heartbreaking.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a whole thing.
It
Like
is sad.
when we started this podcast, I don't think we expected our 1 year episode to still be in lockdowns.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. We were
Uh,
thinking that we were going to have one episode that was going to be while we were all traveling to the same conference during this
right.
year. And
Yeah.
Yep.
who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Nature is pretty relentless.
No, yeah, unpredictable.
But yeah. So yeah, Spider-Man, good movie. If you have a chance to see it and you can do it safely, I would recommend to do that. If you can't see it safely, no movie is worth getting sick
Yeah.
over or making your friends sick over. So
Hmm.
see what your local situation is. But the movie is very good.
Absolutely excellent.
If it's anything like
Oh,
Shang-Chi, it'll make it to Disney Plus for me eventually.
right. Yeah, I watched Shang-Chi when it hit Disney Plus, and I watched Eternals, I think, that way as well. No, did I watch? No, I
No,
watched Eternal in
Eternals.
the cinemas.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Eternals yet. I'm waiting for
Right.
Disney Plus.
I
January
went.
15th. It's going to be on our anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a present for all of
Also,
us, all three of us.
I
Yes.
finally started watching Hawkeye.
Yeah, good. Are you caught up?
Yes, I am
Yes.
now.
Excellent. So I don't know what to say to you because that's so much to catch up on, but wasn't it good?
So, you know how WandaVision started really, really strong and then kind of lost its way?
Yeah.
I feel like Hawkeye did the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Hawkeye started really, really poorly, and then suddenly just like kicked it into overdrive to be very, very good. And I'm a little shocked by it because I genuinely did not like the series in episode 1 or 2. And I pretty much bounced off, and it was because a friend of mine on Twitter said like, no, just watch number 3, and then number 3 actually, like, the sort of the chess piece start to work out. I think the main decider on whether you're gonna like this is whether you can tolerate early Kate.
I see.
That's it. I think if you know the character, or you already love the character, or you have like an idea of who she is, it might be fun to watch her origin story. But her origin story genuinely is rich brat, right? And she is incredibly annoying to open the series, and it's necessary because it's part of her arc, right? But that doesn't make it more fun to watch. So I just genuinely hate it. I hated episode 1. I disliked episode 2. I was like, oh, okay. I did not hate that for episode 3. I was like, oh, this is good for episode 3. And this was good for episode 4. And then episode 5, there's a conversation in the middle of that episode that's just extremely good.
Yeah.
Like fun surprises, good connections to the MCU. I'm actually enjoying it. I don't know. Like, I remember Osama telling us about the bro thing.
Yeah.
And they dropped that in later episodes.
Yeah.
Which really helps.
It felt odd, right? And like,
yeah,
I thought it worked in the comics, because in
right.
the comics you're going to visualize it the way that you want to visualize it. Like, you could fill in the gaps yourself. Seeing it in on the TV in an MCU movie, it felt too slapstick for MCU.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the show was.
I agree, bro.
Yeah, bro. I'm sure you agree, bro. It was like it was too much, right? You can phase it out when you're reading. You can't phase it out when you're watching.
Yeah, and I think that's what they did with the episodes, right? Yeah. Like, by the time when you hit, like, I think episode 1 was very much like Kate is annoying and this world is silly.
Yeah.
And now by 5 we're like, blood has to be paid with blood.
Yeah.
And is vengeance truly the thing that's worth more than anything around you? And what is the value of family over responsibility? Yeah. And, how do you reckon with being in over your head, but still trying to do the right thing? And it's like, wait, how did we get from bro to this? What happened?
Right. I actually thought they I don't know if this is even possible, but they tried to do too much with this show. They tried to give nods to the comic, because the comic book was really strong, very well received. People are going to be watching for nods to the comic. You cannot ignore it, right? They're trying to link it to the MCU, and this is like, we're talking about just Hawkeye here. There are no superpowered beings who are flying around or anything like that. This is not Avengers. This is Hawkeye, and linking it to the broader MCU is a challenge, and keeping it interesting without all of that other stuff. For most people, for some of us, it doesn't matter, but for most people, they're going to be looking for that fanfare. You know what I mean? How do you do? And there were so many like themes that Hawkeye didn't touch on in the MCU, or actual integral parts of the character, like his hearing issues, right? His
he's hard of hearing.
Hard of hearing. Sorry, I blanked out for a sec. That was just completely ignored in the MCU, as far as I remember. Maybe they visually showed a hearing aid, but that was about it. All of those things had to come together. And Kate is not for everyone, like you said. I'm not really interested in hearing another story of a rich person who becomes a superhero. I agree, but I just love the dynamic between the two. I'm not a huge Hawkeye fan, but I am a Hawkeye and Kate fan, if that makes sense.
Right? Yeah.
They didn't talk about Dog enough, in my opinion. Like, Dog is a very good character in the comics, that he was just kind of there. Like, I think he felt odd. Like, do you remember in the Watchmen movie, how there was just a scene with the Panther that was genetically modified, and it just like walked into the scene, and you're like, there's no explanation for it, there's no anything alluding to it, and it was just there for like a few seconds, and that was just a nod to the comics to be like, we haven't forgotten that this character exists, but we're just don't have any screen time for them.
Right.
That's kind of like almost what Dog felt like in this, because Dog had his own entire comic in the comic book, where start to finish, you're just following the dog. and like he was a
I
major
mean,
character. Like,
it's funny because now that you mention it, like it feels a little odd, but I actually kind of thought the dog was there as sort of like a humanizing bond between Kate and
mhm.
Clint, and I thought it worked well in that regard. I had no idea that this was a character.
It was, and that was the purpose it filled in the comics as well. The what I mean is there was more time spent with it in the
Right.
comics. Understandably, you can't do that, but like there were a lot of things that were like that. I felt like the pacing had to be what it was because of how many things they were trying to tackle at the same time. And I
Hmm.
almost would have preferred if they slowed it down and made more seasons and just tackled the topic
Right.
slower. But I think that would have, like, the comic fans would have loved that because they would have seen more of what they would have expected, and the movie fans would have hated that because get to the MCU would have been
Yeah,
the
I would have bounced off if I had to deal with more Kate before she like
yeah
flips to being a nice character. Like
yeah
I would have absolutely. And then obviously there's sort of like the surprise MCU character. Can we
yeah.
talk about that? Are we post because she joins the thing on episode 4, and by the time this comes out, we're on episode 6. I think we're spoiler free, right?
There's okay, so that's a surprise what you're talking about because there's also another surprise.
There's 3 surprises, right, in terms of characters.
I
I don't know,
Ask
guys. I want to
Fauzi.
watch it. It sounds like it might spoil
right.
stuff for me.
All right,
All right.
so we'll
All right.
skip it for now. When you're caught up, we'll have an episode where we not the entire episode, but we'll dedicate a segment to it.
So
Deal?
let's do a
Right.
spoiler cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, once I caught up. I wasn't gonna watch it to be honest, but now hearing what you have to say about it, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll give this a go.
Just give it to episode 3, and if after episode 3 you're still like I don't care at all, then just whatever, it's not for you.
Mhm.
But I genuinely think episode 4 is good, really good television, and I think episode 5 has a really strong moment. So
Ah, cool.
yeah, I like this version of the MCU where they take their time every now and then to just let characters breathe and bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
And I like that. I feel like the phase 1, 2, 3 didn't really do that as much.
They had no TV shows; they couldn't do that, right?
Right. And now that we have some more time with these characters, I think it works well. I mean, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that it had a few good moments, but overall I didn't love that one. But beyond that, most of the series I've really enjoyed.
I agree. Actually, WandaVision, Loki were incredibly strong.
I love
I
Loki so much.
really loved What If, but I know that it was a polarizing one. There are people who really didn't like What If as well. But What If was what I love about the MCU, all the probability space of all the different characters and everything. But again, that was made for me and not for everyone else. Everyone else just got to watch it. That type of situation.
I'm very curious. I'm very curious about if we're going to see any impact from What If on the MCU at large.
Yes. I mean, yes, absolutely. Did you not watch Spider-Man all the way till the end?
I did watch Spider-Man all the way to the end, but
Okay, so without spoiling it, you missed something.
no, I did see that. I just
Okay.
I'm not quite sure if I wanted to mention that.
Oh, well, I think we're vague enough that Fauzi has no idea what we're talking about. So I think we're
Oh,
safe.
good.
You guys
Oh,
are
good,
such
good.
tease. Like, really.
Anyway, Osama, are you at the point yet where you're going to talk about what the secret announcement was?
No.
Okay.
I need to receive 50
Oh my God, that's,
emails from our fans. Before
Wow.
I announce it. That's a tax.
Yalla. Fauzi, how are you? How's your week?
Osama with the double T's.
Double T's.
Let's okay. I could talk about some TV shows that I've been watching and I'm kind of really into,
Okay.
and then I could talk about a video game. So,
I like video games.
all right. So a show that I've been a long time fan of released a third season. It's Narcos Mexico.
Okay.
So there were two. So it's kind of like two shows, but they're very connected. There was Narcos. There was 3 seasons, and then there was Narcos Mexico, and they just had the third season released. I'm a huge fan of Narcos. It's really good. So like the first season was about the drug trade in Colombia and the story of Pablo Escobar, which if you don't know much about the guy, it's a mind-blowing series of events. And like when they say that reality is stranger than fiction, this show just keeps on hitting. Very very dark, very very violent. So like there's a lot of content warning associated, but it's really good TV. Like for me, Narcos is probably some of the best Netflix shows out there. And season 3 of Narcos Mexico doesn't disappoint. I'm really, really enjoying that. I think I will have like a couple episodes left from finishing it. I started watching the League of Legends show, Arcane, is what it's called.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't
one.
know.
Before you
I
jump
don't
into Arcane, I just wanted to. I thought you were going to talk more about Narcos. I watched the first season and I absolutely loved it. I didn't continue with the second, but it was
The
a
first
really
season of the Pablo Escobar one. So the first one.
Pablo Escobar. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's good, man. This show
First one.
just keeps on getting better.
Good.
And now we have like, I don't know, 6 seasons of goodness, I think. Like like if I like gangster shows generally. I like gangster movies, like Scorsese gangster movies. I've always enjoyed watching these. Narcos is like totally different level on TV, on crime TV and drama. Super cool. So if you've watched the first season, it just keeps on getting better.
I'll keep going then.
I think you'd really enjoy that. So yeah, the second show I started watching is the League of Legends show called Arcane. So I am not a League of Legends guy because I'm a Dota guy. I don't know why. Like when we were playing a lot of these games, you either you're one or the other. It takes a lot of time to learn a MOBA.
A lot of investment. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to play more than one.
I think I played like 3,000 hours of Dota 2 and I was just average, and that's like, part of the love-hate relationship that I have with this game. I think I talked about Dota 2 in one of our Suhoor bites, in which like, yeah, it's so deep, it's so rewarding, but it's also so punishing. And like, it just takes so much to be good at this game. But it's so good. So like, I've always had the love-hate relationship with Dota. But I was never really into League. Because of that, because I've just like I don't think I have the brain to fill in 2 MOBAs and be average at both.
Right.
But then I started watching the show. It's super, like really really good. Hard to stop. It's a 3D animated show.
Yep.
Episodes range around to 45 minutes ish.
Yeah.
And first of all, I love the art direction. I love the style.
Exactly. It's so good.
It's so good. I would love to play a game in that art direction, Riot, make us a third-person adventure game in this art style. I'll play it immediately. Definitely made me want to check League out, but I don't know if I have the time or the bandwidth really. But it does the job of makes me very intrigued about the lore and what the world is all about. But I think that's also one of the strengths and one of the things I really love about the show is that if you know not much at all about League, you can still quite enjoy it.
Right.
So I didn't feel like I missed anything by not playing League. So I can only imagine that my friends who do play League are probably having a blast watching it.
So I played League. But I was zero invested in the story, if I'm perfectly honest. Like people were saying this person's from this place or that person from that place, but I didn't read any of the books that came out with their stories or engage with the narrative in any way. I just enjoyed the gameplay and I played it with my
Yeah, fair enough.
So when Arcane came out, I didn't think it would be for me. I thought, oh, maybe I'll recognize 1 or 2 characters, and that's the part that I loved about Arcane. And you're confirming it is that. I learned about those characters that I knew and played with before, like for the first time in a really good way where I didn't need to know them at all. There were a couple of characters who much later I'm like, oh, that's who that is. Because like the show takes place like chronologically before the game, like a long time before the game. So some, changed, evolved, got older. So I was watching and being invested in this character. I didn't know who it was until I realized I knew who it was, simply because I didn't have that connection with that character. The narrative.
Wow, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, and it happened a couple of times where I'm like, oh, okay, that's who that was. And I didn't see it coming because I didn't know that those 2 characters knew each other that way or what have you. Trying to be vague here, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's probably great because, like, all of these references, they will fly over my head entirely since I don't know the game pretty much at all. But, and I think that's really like the testament to the strength of the show and the writing is that I was hooked nonetheless. I like really enjoyed it regardless if I knew what it was based on or not. And that's really cool.
it almost made me want to download and install League of Legends again. But I like playing other games, so I won't do that.
I think that's the problem with MOBAs. Is like you either play
Yeah,
MOBAs or you play games. You can't do both.
yeah.
you know,
So it takes so much time, so
so
much
much
time.
time.
They're good too, but it's just a big investment.
Yeah, they also, they're so stressful. They brought out the worst in me, to be honest. Like, I quit playing Dota when I quit smoking because I was like, I can't handle the stress any other way. So I might as well stop playing Dota too, since I don't smoke anymore.
I used to play this mode in League of Legends called ARAM, all random, all mid, because it was randomed characters. So if I felt bad for losing, I could just be like, whatever, I got a bad character anyway.
Ah, yeah, fair
So
enough.
that was my transition from playing League to stopping to play League. I went to
Yeah.
ARAM first.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Rami, you're
Yeah.
quiet. Did you never play a MOBA? I mean, you've tried one
I
for sure, but
I accidentally made one like 12 years ago, and I'm still bitter about that.
what? Whoa, wait! I want to hear more about this. How did you accidentally make a MOBA?
When StarCraft was a thing, very early StarCraft days, it had a map editor, right?
Yeah.
It was a pretty advanced map editor. So I made a map. I called it Horizons that had two teams of I think 3 or 4 players. I think it was 4 players. 2 teams of 4 players, and one of you would play strategy, and the other 3 would control one character as a hero that could kill like random enemies to get experience, and then you could use that experience to upgrade your character and evolve it to different characters. And to make that interesting and create interesting situations, I created 3 lanes that went up the top lane, the bottom lane, and the middle lane, and then just balanced it very poorly, so it wasn't really fun. So it never really went anywhere. I played like 30 or 40 games of the map with a bunch of people that really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that.
So you made Dota, but in StarCraft. That's pretty much what it sounds like.
And it was bad. And the goal was to kill the enemy player's HQ, which was on each corner.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one HQ in the top right corner and one HQ in the top left corner. And I had one of those old StarCraft interface. I don't know if you played StarCraft back in the days, but we couldn't make custom.
Yeah.
We couldn't do custom UI, right? So instead, we would make a part at the bottom that would count as UI, where you would control a useless character to walk onto things, and those plates would represent UI elements. So if you wanted to pick a certain attack or do a certain thing, you would have to use that character and walk over. Yeah, I have different heroes that you could pick at the start. There were 4 implemented, I think.
That's clever, by the way. That movie.
It was a smart way of doing it. I stole that from like 1,000 other maps that I loved, but I accidentally made a MOBA, and then it went nowhere because obviously it was not very good. I think that's the part where everybody's like, like you make a game idea like that is obviously going to be good, and I'm like, no, because I made one and it was bad.
That's actually one of the dangers of game development is if, let's say, we were on a team together, doing something, and I had an idea that's similar to yours. Like, it's very common to have someone who's like, oh, but we tried that and it failed. And we can't imagine a situation where the same idea could be executed properly and people will just gloss over it. Those kind of conversations actually happen surprisingly often, where you're trying to convince the other person that, no, the version I have in my head can work. And you don't know. It's a coin flip. Like, you'll have to actually try it, prototype it to see if it will or won't. I don't know.
It was fun. Sorry, it was fun enough, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
The first Dota was on StarCraft as well. So like Dota, Dota like evolved.
I thought it was Warcraft.
Yeah, it evolved from a map on StarCraft called Aeons of Strife, I think. And then then those peeps moved over to Warcraft 3 and they remade it and enhanced it. But Dota and MOBAs generally all started from StarCraft. Yeah.
I had no idea. The first one I played was Warcraft 3, and I thought that's where it started.
The map editor was so good.
Both of them.
You had the triggers, and I never really played with the Warcraft editor much. I just loved the StarCraft one. My map editors were StarCraft and Age of Empires.
Yeah.
So Rami, did your Horizon map have any dawns?
Did my what?
So it didn't have any
You
dawns?
cut out. You cut out Dawn? No.
No? So it had 0 dawns, your Horizon?
Yes, just no dons whatsoever.
All
I
right.
was like, did he just say dons? Like I'm like he must have cut out. He must have said something smart, and it just didn't work. But
No, that's not.
no, it was not what
He
happened.
was coming with the dad joke, and you fell for it.
You know, I just
I'm
I feel like
sorry.
I got
I'm not really
updogged.
sorry. Yeah, you definitely got up, dog. I didn't fall for that one because I've updogged people before.
Yeah, I would be so disappointed if you did not updog anybody.
Fuzzy,
I
did
played
you
a
ever
video
get
game.
updogged?
What's that?
Go for it.
No, I'm gonna try to
No.
change the topic.
Trying to get out of this.
Go.
I played a video game as well called. It's an indie game called Death's Door.
I've played that.
Yeah, it's
You
good.
played it. It's good. I haven't finished it. I played a couple of hours of it. I think the game is like really high quality. Is what I would. The first thing that catches my attention is like it. It does a lot of things, but it does them solidly. The controls feel tight. The fighting system feels pretty cool. The art style is, noticeable.
Impressive.
Yeah. And it's like there's a bit of Zelda in it. There's a bit of Dark Soulsy design in which you're like a reaper and you're going to collect people are supposed to die.
Souls, I guess.
Yeah, souls. Yeah. And then like as you traverse through levels, you unlock it's kind of like you unlock a door really back to the portal area or like the central hub where you can do your upgrade stuff, and then that becomes your shortcut to continue on from there. So it's kind of like a nice little design there in creating this central hub, but still like feels like a continuous world if you wanted to. Enjoyable game. I like it so
only bought
far.
the game
Yeah.
it was really
Go ahead,
good.
Osama.
I had only bought it because I saw a visual gag on Twitter related to it, where if
Yeah.
you cut a sign and then you interact with the sign, you see the sign in the UI cut in half. And I thought that was so hilarious. I bought it impulsively on the spot.
This is kind of a leap because I enjoyed that door, but if we're speaking about Devolver, which I guess there's not really any
it's a
way to
stretch,
not
but it's
speak
fine.
about. There's not really a way to not talk about Devolver at this point. I feel how many games do they have? Like 100 or something.
Mhm.
They released Loop Hero on Switch,
Mhm.
the Four Quarters game, and that's
It's a good
an
game.
issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue. So yeah, that's been my week.
Loop Hero is your week.
It's just Loop Hero on Switch, just starting from scratch again. It's wild.
Habibi Rami, if it's 1 week, you're forgiven. If you come back next week and you're still like Loop Hero again, no. Sorry, you played the game before.
It's still gonna be Loop Hero.
Oh,
It's
no.
still gonna be Loop Hero. It's gonna be Loop Hero for a very long time.
Oh, no. What have you done, Devolver?
Yeah, no, that game is just very good. It's just very, very good. But yeah, so I played Loop Hero, and then what else did I play? I didn't really play much else. I played Super Mario 3D World with some friends. We were gonna play Halo.
But what happened?
We were gonna play Halo campaign. So this is a group of friends that since Halo 1, I've been playing Halo with them. And we would always do, co-op, split screen co-op campaigns, and that was just tradition. It's been a tradition for forever. But we sat down. We had our controllers. We had our Xbox, and then we booted up the game. And there's just no co-op yet. Turns out
realize that before. Oh no.
we did not.
Oh no.
We did not. It was really sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, no co-op.
I'm playing this solo, and I stopped because I think I would enjoy it way more. I've never played a Halo solo, so
it's neither have I.
yeah. So I think I'm gonna wait for the co-op to come.
Co-op.
But someone, I don't remember who, I was talking with someone who suggested that I shouldn't stop because they felt that the co-op part of Halo is going to be a separate campaign. and that kind of made me confused and sad. And I scoured the internet to see if I could find more info, and I couldn't find anything to either confirm or deny that. It just
I'm
they said co-op is coming, but it wasn't more clear than that. So I hope I'm wrong.
I really hope they mean co-op campaign, because if not, I don't think I will play this Halo. Like, it's
Yeah.
just tradition to play it with friends, and if I can't play it with friends, I'm just not gonna play it.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
that doesn't work. But yeah, so yeah, Halo, and then what else did I do this? I had more flight training. That was nice.
Flight
Although,
Simulator in real life again. Yay!
you know how much training I do in Flight Simulator.
Yes.
Like, I actually train stuff in Flight Simulator, especially the approach circuits,
Mhm.
because you practice them visually, and sort of how you fly around the airfield. You kind of have to know where you need to turn. And normally you do it based on a map that shows you where water or where grass or where specific features are. But in Flight Simulator, you actually get to see a pretty close rendition of what it would look like in real life.
Of course.
And that's huge. But yeah, mostly I did landing practice. And I really love landing. It's my favorite thing about flying.
Man,
I don't know.
I saw the video you posted about your landing, and that was incredible.
Me
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're really good at it. You nailed it.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I will say, like, I was thinking about this because, I like flight, and, as you engage with something more closely, you sort of start to think about why it matters to you and how it matters to you. And I think there's just something cool about the balance between natural forces and technology that is really appealing to me about flight,
Mhm.
right? And I kind of realized that I like takeoff because it feels powerful, right? It's kind of destructive. It's like you push the throttle all the way in, this airplane starts accelerating, and it generates this enormous amount of power that is strong enough that, combined with the laws of physics and the way the airplane is built, that you fly, you overcome nature's forces, right?
Mhm.
And then flight is sort of like a balance between the two, where you want to output enough of the one to basically nullify the other. Because that's how you fly. If gravity is equal to lift, then you fly, right? That's it. Then you fly stable. And there's something beautiful in that, and there's something beautiful in the dance between those. But what I love about landing is that you actually are letting nature win, right? You have this machine, and it's no longer the point to defeat nature's forces. It's the point to have a dance with nature's forces in such a way that at the end you can walk away from it. But you're still talking about incredible forces, right? You're still talking about, like, gravity. You're still talking about, like, resistance and wind, and about the power that your engine and your propeller is outputting. And it's really, I don't know how to explain this without having you feel it,
Mhm.
but the feeling of it is really incredible. And I don't know, there's something fun about landing. So can I do a little aviation detour
Dude,
without a, like,
I think we're
I'll
in the
take-
detour.
I'll take the aviation detour over a Destiny detour any time of the week.
So the first thing you do is you want to make sure that the space horse is happy,
Here we go.
right?
Oh no.
So when you have an airplane, normally you have a number of controls, right? You have a number of primary controls, and they're your yoke, which is sort of like this big steering wheel thing.
Mhm.
And you can move that left, right, forward, and backwards. You can actually push it forward or pull it backwards. And if you pull it backwards, your nose goes up. And if you push it away from you, then you push the nose down, right? And then you can roll the airplane left and right. And then you've got your throttle, which is basically how much power you're putting into the engine.
Mhm.
And then you've got on your feet, you've got your rudder, which is actually how you control the airplane on the ground and how you do something called coordinating your turns. But that's not really important for this.
Mhm.
So normally in flight, you slow down and speed up with your throttle, effectively, right? Because that's how much power you're putting into your engine. And then you go up and down by using your yoke. So if you push your yoke forward, you'll go down. And if you pull your yoke upwards, you'll go up. Now, all of flight is sort of like a trade-off. So if you make your nose go up, you'll start climbing. But because you're climbing, if you keep the same power in your engine, you'll start slowing down because you're now adding force. Like you're going up against gravity, but you're not adding more power, so you'll slow down, right?
Mhm.
And if you push your nose down, you'll speed up, right? Same thing. If you make your throttle go lower, but you keep everything about the airplane the same, you'll start to descend. And if you go and add throttle, you start to climb. So on landing, there's this weird thing where the relation between those two inverts. So basically, as you're approaching, you now have to control your speed with the yoke, and you have to control your height with the throttle.
Wow.
And it's really weird. It's kind of confusing, and it makes sense when you think about the physics because you're going very slow.
Mhm.
So if you add a little bit of power, yeah, of course you'll go up.
Mhm.
And if you remove a bit of power, of course you'll go down. But it's really weird how precise that is. So you have this super good control over how high you're going to end up being by adjusting your speed. You have this really weird control over how fast you're going by using the yoke. And then really your trick is you wanna keep your speed at the right thing, like 60-ish.
Mhm.
And then right above the runway, you level out your airplane and you start flying horizontal to your runway, and then you just pull up the nose so that you bleed off speed, so that you eventually touch the ground. And it's just such a cool feeling. It's
Are,
really hard. I
are
wish
you
I could
able to
explain it.
maintain that? Like, 'cause it sounds like there's a spot between the two where speeding up does neither. If you speed up at exactly the same like speed, is that a thing? Like, can you maintain this weird moment where you're speeding up and speeding down just by
Yeah, so basically that's
pumping?
kind of what you're trying to do is you try to get the airplane to start its final approach at like 70 knots an hour, and then you pull up the nose so that you bleed off speed to 60 knots an hour. And then you're just basically, because your nose is pointing up, if you add speed, you'll gain altitude. If you reduce speed, there's so much resistance in the wings that you'll fall slowly, right? So it's actually super precise. And you're just sitting there with your one hand on the throttle and your other hand on the yoke, and you're just like making these very small movements on both of them. And if you're doing it right, the runway doesn't change where it is in your vision. It just stays in the right place, in the same place. It just gets bigger.
Mm.
And then eventually you're over the runway. You turn off your engines almost entirely, and then you let the airplane fall onto the runway. And if something goes wrong, you just push that throttle in all the way, and you're instantly flying again. Right? It just like the forces just instantly. But it's such a weird. How do you explain the feeling of like the lift, feeling the lift in your wings like evaporate?
Mm.
Right? It's impossible to explain, but it's such a cool feeling. Y'all should do flight class sometimes, is
Mhm.
what I'm saying.
Oh,
It's
man,
really,
I'm
it's
terrified of
remarkable.
heights. I can't see myself doing it.
You know that I understand, and I have a weird fear of heights between like 2 and like 10 meters,
Okay.
and it's only between 2 and 10 meters. And I think it's because from that height you would still survive it. You would just be in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Above that, it's just done. You know, it's like
Yeah.
if I fall here, it's just over. So it's I'm not as scared of that. I feel.
Hmm.
But that weird space where you're like, if I fall here, I will break every bone in my body and be in a lot of pain for a very long time. I'm like, nope, do not want to look over this railing.
How did it feel for you, Rami, when you landed without an instructor or for the first time? Like that must have been
I,
scary.
I'm not allowed to yet. Almost,
Oh, okay.
almost.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up in a few weeks, and I'm
Wow.
terrified.
Yeah,
I'm
that must be
terrified.
scary as hell.
It's really, really odd because I'm good. I'm good at landing. I'm good at taking off. I know my circuits. I know the procedures. I know what to do. But it's really nice to just have somebody sitting next to you that can go like, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot. Like I think that the main thing they're trying to teach you in these first 10 hours of lessons is they're trying to make you go through the procedures often enough that that your brain doesn't need to be actively working on all of them.
Wow.
Because it's a lot. You're dealing with all of these different things that you need to monitor, And there's like these tiny things. There's something called carb heat, and it reduces how much power your engine puts out because it heats your engine. It uses your engine to heat to heat things so that your engine doesn't freeze, which would be bad, right? But if you leave that on, obviously you'll have less power in case you have to go around and start climbing again. So you want to make sure that's off for your final approach, but you want it on during descent. So you just have to make sure that you do that. And then if you go around, you want to make sure that you retract your flaps. So you're continuously thinking about all these things. And I think they're just trying to make you do that without having to think, right? We're doing a go around. Okay, let's make sure that carb heat isn't there. Let's make sure that the flaps go back to 1. Let's make sure that we gain speed first before we start climbing. And they're just trying to make it automated because you will need to know how to do that in case something goes wrong. And I think the 2 things I still need to practice before I can go on my solo are stalls, which effectively intentionally making the airplane fall out of the sky.
Wow.
And then the second one is emergency landings. Because if something goes wrong on the airfield, right, if another airplane lands and explodes and now the airfield is on fire, I won't be able to land there anymore. So I'll need to know how to land the airplane in case of emergency. So those are the 2 things I still need to practice.
So like on a highway or in water or something like that?
Grass fields.
Grass fields, okay.
Wow.
I went the other extreme.
Yeah, no, grass fields are the safest place to land.
Any desert training, Rami? No desert
Not yet,
training.
but I will say, after I get my my license, I want to get a night rating and I want to get a mountain rating, and I would love to see if there's such a thing as learning to land on sand.
Yeah.
Because I would like to practice that. Like, there's so much stuff you can learn with aviation.
Play Uncharted 3. They have a good tutorial there.
We'll see. The trailer for that movie did not look very good anyway.
I kept seeing Spider-Man. I couldn't help it.
I had the same thing. I'm like, hey, Spider-Man. Why are you scared about hanging out of an airplane? Just use your web.
That's gonna follow him for a while.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he has tremendous range. He'll be fine eventually. Yeah. Just not yet.
Yeah.
Speaking of being fine, Osama, you would not be fine if we didn't have emails.
No, we have Al-Mail. This is our section where we talk about all of the.
I think we need to workshop the name a little, but
I already put it in the show notes it's official already.
That's it.
That's
not how it works.
But also, Rami, I still have to wonderful segue. Bravo. I'm clapping here.
We have to underline it. All right, so we have a mail from a frequent writer, Asif. He wrote, "Hey guys, Cowboy Bebop on Netflix just got canceled. How upset are you guys?" And question to the 3 of you: what show cancellations were you most upset about? And he follows that up with also canceled games. So we have 3 things to answer. The first is about the Netflix show, and then about canceled shows in general, and then about canceled games. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
Rami, you can go first.
I'll go first with Bebop. I don't care. I didn't watch it yet, and I didn't feel like watching it, so I'm not that bothered by it. Did either of you watch it?
Yes,
I did.
Really sad because, to be quite honest, had you asked, I watched the first 2 episodes and stopped watching. I did not like the first 2 episodes. I thought they were pretty bad. And I still don't like the first 2 episodes. I don't think they got better by watching the rest. I just don't I think they failed the launch, and I think that's the reason they got canceled. I think a lot of people fell off at the same spot that I did, either after the first episode or the second episode. That's my assumption. But people told me, no, it gets better. And I'm like, I'll give it another try. I'll give it a couple of more episodes. And in my opinion, they were absolutely right. The show picks up, finds its tone. The Faye gets introduced as a like, if you've watched the original Cowboy Bebop, you know who Faye is. But she was introduced as a mainstay. She stole the show for me. She was the heart of the show. And she wasn't there at the beginning. And it turned it all around for me. So it's one of those shows that I would almost say skip the first 2 episodes, start watching the third. They add like nothing, and the tone on the first episodes are way more. It's way more slapstick than the other episodes afterwards. That's what turned me off. So I'm actually really sad, but I understand because of it was such a weak start in my opinion that I think the numbers for Netflix might justify it, but it's still heartbreaking if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I thought that the show was entertaining. It's not that bad, and I was happy that it will bring people to watch the original anime, which I think is superior in every way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like where the show failed for me, I don't think it captured the characters, the personalities of the characters that well. You know, like Spike of the anime is a way cooler character. I felt that, whereas like there was something off, and like I think the essence of the characters wasn't really properly captured, with the exception of Jet, which I thought was superior, superb, and like they really captured that character properly. Or whenever there's obviously that there's a cast that was very passionate about the show, and they would have loved to make more of it. So I feel bad for them that the show got canceled. So but I'm a little bit like Rami, kind of like wish there was a bit more there. The anime was so much better in my eyes.
So much better. I do agree. The anime is a masterpiece. Possibly my favorite anime of all time. It's between that and Samurai Champloo. So the two animes from the same studio.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, it was sad for the show, but I understand as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next question. What other TV shows are you really sad that got canceled?
So on Netflix, I was really sad that Mindhunters was canceled. Mindhunters was a show about two FBI agents who starts interviewing the most prolific serial killers, and actually ends up coining the term serial killers, and they start to create criminal profiling. So it's also based on true events. And David Fincher directed the pilot, and basically set the tone for the show throughout. Only 2 seasons were made, and then the third was canceled due to the pandemic, which is such a shame, because I was earlier saying that Narcos is one of the best shows on Netflix. Mindhunter for me is the best show on Netflix. It's really, really good, and yeah, I was so gutted that they've never got to finish it.
Wow. Okay. For me, so it's kind of a weird one. So for me, the show I was most sad about canceling, I was actually mostly sad that it had a second season in the first place. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Maybe it will. Tell us what show.
It had a very good first season. In fact, I think it's one of my favorite limited series in the history of ever. It was called Utopia. It was a Channel 4. It was a Channel 4 TV series about a group of effectively nerds that stumble upon a comic, a visual novel. That stumble upon a visual novel that was written by a scientist that was hiding a lethal virus of sorts in the pages of the comic book. And they're trying to survive the shady government agency that's chasing them down now. Right. And it's dark and it's violent and it's gorgeous. It's like beautiful colors, saturated, great characters, like instantly lovable, very UK in its style. It just that alone, that it had a texture that felt slightly different, was already very interesting. And then the first season it was beautiful. It wrapped up beautifully, and then they had to make another season. And that season was fine. It wasn't. Oh, also great music, by the way. The second season was fine. I didn't love it, but they left the second season on a huge cliffhanger. And to be fair, they left the first season on a huge cliffhanger. But you can end a story on a cliffhanger. That works, right? Like it's totally possible. And it fit the tone of Utopia to end the first season on a cliffhanger and be like, and we're done. But then the second cliffhanger at the end of the second season, that wasn't one you could just go like, well, I guess, we just don't know what happened. It was really built to have a third season. And then obviously they canceled it. Instead, what they did is Amazon bought the rights to it and made a really bad American version of the same TV series.
Oh,
Which, yeah, they basically redid season 1 but American, and it's just atrociously bad.
that's so sad.
So yeah, instead of a third season of a really good TV series, I got a mediocre remake of my favorite series, my favorite limited series of a TV series that really should have had only one season.
At least
So
you
I don't
can
know.
ignore the rest and just stop at the first season and say the rest.
That's
doesn't make
basically what I do. I watch this series a lot with my friends. Like if I have visitors over and they're there for a few days, like and they haven't seen Utopia, I always offer it to them as like, let's watch my favorite TV series.
sense. Huh.
And it's just it's incredibly good.
That's great.
Worth checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can find it, because genuinely it's hard to find. It was like it was a Channel 4 thing in the UK, so it's not like it had like a broad release anywhere.
Yeah.
I have a few answers actually, but I think mine are a little more obvious than yours. I think they're a little more widespread, not as niche.
All right, so Lost, Game of Thrones.
What? None of those
Every-
are canceled. Those are the shows that should have been canceled earlier. But anyway, that's a different topic.
every comic book in the history of mankind.
No.
right.
For me, the first one is kind of a weird choice because I only watched it after it was canceled, and it was retroactively sad that it was canceled. It was Firefly. I didn't know about its existence while it was live. Then when I watched the episodes later, I absolutely fell in love with it and was really disheartened to know that there was no more of it.
It's good.
And it's so good. I love Firefly. It's one of my favorite TV shows. It's like it's actually it has a lot in common with Cowboy Bebop. It's like cowboys in space.
Yeah.
And there's so many good characters in it, and the movie was good as a wrap up of it. Like you wanted to have a little bit of closure. Here's some closure, but I imagine that the events of the movies and everything in between would have been much better if it was a TV show. But who knows, right? Because the other example, the other one that I had that I was upset about, and then the other way around, retroactively happy and wish it stayed canceled, was Arrested Development. So one of the funniest shows on TV, so good, canceled in its prime, was really upset when it was canceled, was super happy when I heard it was coming back, was not really impressed with the seasons when it came back, and I almost wish they weren't there. But yeah, so sometimes you think that a show is better off to continue, but it's not the case. It just fizzles otherwise. Like my favorite season of Prison Break is actually the only season I liked is the first season. I think that show would have been one of the best of all time if it was canceled after the first season. Everyone would have been upset and confused, but then it just went on to like die slowly and like limp its way to being not a great show, in my opinion. So yeah, you don't like be careful what you ask for type situation. Those are my two votes.
Now it's canceled video games, right?
Yeah, canceled video games. Yeah,
I have a bunch of those, but I don't want to talk too much about them because I think we've already gone a little bit over time.
Let's do rapid fire. Rapid fire them.
Rapid fire. All right. So Silent Hills. I would have loved to play that game. Star Wars 1313.
Yeah.
Chrono Break. It was supposed to be the third Chrono games after Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Never came to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are good ones.
Osama?
So I also shared the Star Wars 1313 with his list. I was sad about that. There was an Avengers game that was made by THQ, which I was really wanting to play. I had a friend who was working on it and was telling me about it, and it got canceled. It was super sad. So it has to be those two. Yeah.
Okay. I've none.
What?
Yeah, I've none. I don't know. I never. When a game gets canceled very frequently, I'm just like, well, good for them.
Yeah.
And it's a weird one because very often people are very sad about games being canceled, but like making games is hard.
Yeah.
There's always good reasons why games get canceled.
Almost always. But even when games get canceled, like for poor reasons, I'm just like,
There's reasons.
Right. I don't know. Like it's hard to make games, and every now and then I'm just like, well, I wish I could cancel the thing I'm working on. Like it's just a feeling every time you have, and you're like, oh, that's like so much of my life in there.
It's funny you should say that, because when I've worked on canceled games before, in general, I'm very sad, because oftentimes games aren't very good until they're good. Like there's a moment in the game where you kind of have to have faith that it'll come together, where like it's all scaffolding, it's all gray box, it's all whatever. So you're waiting for that moment, and sometimes that moment just doesn't come, and the game gets canceled as a result, and you feel really sad if you have hope, or you believe it's coming, it's around the corner. But there's also sometimes that you feel relief if you actually don't believe it's coming around the corner.
Right.
You're like, I'd rather just be done with this and move on and try again. Not every game comes together at the end either. So I have mixed emotions about all the cancellations that I've had to live through in my career. I don't know if y'all feel the same way, or if you've even had cancellations.
I was the one that canceled them, so for me it's hard to it's. I was usually the person that went like, okay, this ain't working. We'll move on. It's not a fun feeling. No, it's really not a fun feeling. But at the same time, you need to think of your team, and you need to think of the opportunity cost of what you're trying to do. And sometimes the better call is to just say like, well, this ain't working. We'll shelve it, and you can keep it in the back of your mind. You can keep thinking about it. If there is a future version of the game that does work well, we'll just try it again. We did that with Nuclear Throne. Nuclear Throne was the third time we tried starting on Nuclear Throne. And the first one turned into a first-person shooter called Gun Gods. The second one we just canceled, and the third one was Nuclear Throne. Wow. So
I didn't know that.
That's, sometimes that's how it goes. I don't know, like there's already so many video games to play. I don't mind if one doesn't make it. And every now and then I'm really angry for people that their game got canceled. That happens. Yeah. But from a personal level, I don't think there's ever been a game where it's like, I wish I could have played that.
For me, actually, you hit a note. I'm always curious to hear about the games that get canceled from the people who worked on them, because we don't get postmortems for those. We don't. Usually studios are very tight-lipped about what happened, and for good reason, because they want to keep the chance of resurrecting it or bringing it back later, and they don't want anything to get out. But those are the conversations I love having with other devs to figure out what went wrong, because you learn so much from those, right? We always get the postmortems for the games that are extremely successful and do really well. That teaches you something, but we don't get the other side, the flip coin.
Right. I've always been taught that you learn more from failure than success.
Yes, you do.
And I think that's true in general. Yeah. I like hearing those two. Anyway, before we fail to wrap up this podcast in time, let's wrap it up for today. Any last thoughts, things you wanted to say besides send us emails?
Yeah, actually, there is one thing that I want to say. I think it made it sound like my big announcement was bigger than it really was, or maybe different.
We're expecting huge announcements.
Okay, huge. Well, it's big for me, all right? So I'll tell you what it is, just because I don't want people to get the wrong idea and start predicting different things.
Osama.
I'm going to start teaching again.
So, okay,
that's huge.
That's huge.
It's really big for me. I'm super excited. So
congrats to your future students.
Thank you. Oh, that means a lot that you would congratulate them. Thank you. But I'm super excited myself. I took a year off from teaching. It really affected me. I love teaching, and I was very, very sad during the time. But I was overwhelmed with work and other stuff. As I mentioned on podcasts many times before, and I took that step. But now I feel better. I'm back to. I won't say back to my regular stuff. You never come back 100% to your regular stuff after getting really, really, really tired. But I feel closer to my personal self, and I'm really excited to. To share a little bit of myself with my students going forward.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Super excited.
Fauzi?
Nothing much to add for the time being.
Yeah, I'm in the same place. I think that was it for today. Thanks so much for everybody listening. We'll be back with a new episode next week. Salam.
Salam.
That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I was Rami Ismail, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at @THA_Rami. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Fauzi Mesmar, who you can find on Twitter at Fauzi Mesmar. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. The intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubaila, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting service or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening, and salam.